Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And he's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Bruce Rivers here, board-certified criminal lawyer, coming to you with my pearl handle pistol cufflinks, brought to you by our content genius, Michael Howard Rivers. And today we're reacting to the file Wildest Courtroom Outbursts from High-Profile Trials. So this is actually going to be kind of a whimsical. Michael thought this would be a good idea. You know, the Darrell Brooks one that we did just recently, I mean, those are tough to watch because he's such a prick and caused such damage to so many people. I mean, mass killing. So we're going to just watch these guys, and this might be a little fun. But before we get to this, guess what? Guess what? This is brought to you by eforms.com. Criminal Lawyer Reacts is always brought to you by eforms.com. eforms.com is a repository for legal forms, no matter what state you're in. So if you need a legal form, let's say you sold your grandma a Formula One race car because she decided she wanted to take up the sport. Well, you get a bill of sale. You can get that right from there. Or if you need a power of attorney, business agreement, any kind of legal form, don't hire a guy like me to create something like that, because guess what I do? I just go to eforms.com and charge you a shit ton of money. Take that out of it. Go to eforms.com. They can help you with whatever you're trying to do. So let's just get right to it.
Scott Nelson was convicted of the murder of nanny Jennifer Fulford after he robbed a home out in Florida.
So we're reacting to Law and Crime. Law and Crime already kind of put this out there a little bit. And we actually partnering with them on some projects. So let's just kind of get into this and see how these outbursts are controlled by the court.
And then kidnapped her, and he admitted on the stand that he killed her so there wouldn't be a witness. But then it came a matter of what should be his punishment, life in prison or the death penalty.
So when you have that question, life imprisonment or the death penalty, when you have a younger kid, it's easier to make that case, right? That they should get life and not the death penalty. But when you have an older man who's pretty callous, it makes that sale that much harder.
A federal prison expert came on the stand, and he testified that Nelson had problems with Muslim inmates while behind bars.
Outside the scope of this witness's expertise.
Jesus Christ. Madam Court Reporter, can you read back the question?
Mr. Nelson has shown no adverse effects for the social housing that
I'm sorry. Mr. Nelson, you need to take a moment. Mr. Nelson, you need to take a moment with your attorneys. Hold on, sir. Members of the jury, Mr. Nelson.
First of all, if you're trying to make a pitch that you should not be put to death, you shouldn't act like an asshole and be the personification of the character that they're trying to ascribe to you.
Mr. Nelson, are we clear that you're going to stop talking? I need a verbal affirmative.
Yes. Your Honor, I'd like to ask the word.
Mr. Nelson, talk with your attorneys, and then your attorneys. I'm going to, Mr. Nelson. Mr. Nelson, Ms. Simmons has asked for a moment to talk with you privately. I'm going to grant her request, and you're going to have that opportunity. You need to follow the deputy.
It really doesn't do you. Look at it, they got 4 deputies surrounding him. Time to tone it down. But you know what? If you're in this position anyway, guess what? That's the kind of person you are.
These instructions so they can facilitate this. Okay, go ahead.
What makes a person a murderer? Are they born to kill, or are they made to kill?
That's a good question, actually. What makes a person a murderer? Well, sometimes people are just psychopathic and they want to fucking kill, like serial killers. Or sometimes people are thrust into a situation where they're either called to defend themselves or make a judgment error. And sometimes people are just evil and want to get out of a situation, like Scott Peterson, who his wife was pregnant and he's dating other people and didn't want to be a dad and didn't want to pay his child support. So he decides to fuck up his own life by killing his wife and his unborn child. So it runs the gamut. You know, I can get in a car after drinking and accidentally run over an old lady on the sidewalk, okay, because I'm drunk. That's one thing. But it's quite another to plan a murder and follow through with that and for some evil purpose. So You can't just have one blanket statement about what makes a murderer.
Attorneys can make objections. He can't say anything. And isn't it just so wild that he wants to proclaim he's not a racist?
That's another good point. When you're sitting there and if you're the lawyer and you want to interrupt and you object, that's proper. But if you're the defendant, and sometimes it's hard to hear somebody saying shit about you that's on the stand, but you have to check that because your lawyer will get a chance to do a cross-examination, or your lawyer will get a chance to clean that up later.
Esmin Okafor, the man convicted of murdering 19-year-old Alex Zaldivar, and at a Spencer hearing, which under Florida law allows defendants to present additional evidence, Zaldivar's father took the stand.
I've run out of adjectives. I don't know what to say to this man anymore. But today will be the last time that I will get to see him. But I will see you in 10 years.
Objection, Your Honor.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Zaldivar. Now, please. Please, sit down.
Tensions are really high in violent cases. People just can't get over the fact that somebody would do something to their loved one. And some people, like you just said, I'll see you in 10 years. That's kind of a cold statement that you would have him say in open court.
Let's take him outside for just a moment. Mr. Ashton, can you take that photograph? Please.
And so that was a witness that was making that statement, I'll see you in 10 years. So that guy got the death penalty. For somebody to get the death penalty in Florida, it has to be a unanimous verdict. That's why in the Parkland case, he got life, because there was one person that was a holdout. And then you can't get retried for that. So it's either all or nothing. Well, it's not an all or nothing. I mean, he still got life without parole. It's never going to get out. But that's how that works.
Let's go to Darrell Brooks.
I'd like to provide the defendant and the court with a copy.
So that had to be said. So it's the defendant.
That's not how it was said.
That was how it said. You want to run the record back?
Mr. Brooks.
So I'm the only one. I got one.
Mr.
I got
Brooks.
one ear that work, and I heard that.
This is to benefit you, so that you
not.
understand
Ain't none
your
of this to benefit
witness.
me. So let.
You don't fight with the judge. And we saw in our last video what happens when you fight with the judge.
Has a prior record.
Your Honor, when I leave the table, I'm away from the courtroom, and I have to elevate my voice. This is the alleged record of ableist.
If I'm that prosecutor, I don't think I'm even explaining myself, because he's so full of shit, and he just goes off and off and off. I would just let him just dig his own grave.
Stop talking.
Come on, man. Like, I don't know who y'all be thinking y'all fooling. I accept the value.
Because what you wind up doing is you can wind up getting into the slew of his own BS.
One more interruption and you're going to be removed to the next courtroom.
That's what you want to do anyway.
It's not what I want to do. Do not interrupt Attorney Opper.
So can
Your
you
Honor, I believe he has 7 prior criminal convictions via OWI 2nd from 1997, and OWI 3rd from 1997, and OWI 4th.
OWI is operating while intoxicated, by the way.
From 2003, criminal trespass to dwelling.
Look at him mean mugging the judge. He looks menacing. And this is the whole basis for the crime to begin with, right? And so that just does not do well. I've been admonished by a court for expressing my displeasure with the look on my face. Oh, like I had a judge that didn't grant my motion for judgment of acquittal, and I'm like, oh, I got admonished for that. And now he brings it up almost every fucking time I'm in his courtroom. But look at that. I mean, he looks scary.
This man right now is having a stare down with me. It's very disrespectful. He pounded his fist. Frankly, it makes me scared.
Frankly, it makes me scared. But I'm glad I got these deputies who can thump on him if need be.
Alex Jones.
That's the real Robbie Parker, isn't it?
I mean, I said years ago I thought something would happen.
And for years, you put a target on his back, didn't you?
Objection to the form of that, Judge.
Well, I mean,
Didn't you?
I've admitted I've said his name. It's true. I haven't said other people's names when they are.
You put a target on his back just like you did every single parent and loved one sitting here, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
No, you didn't.
That's argumentative. It's speculative. There is no foundation for it, and it's inappropriate.
Let's move on.
Objection, foundation, speculation, argumentative. Let's see, what other kind of objections can we just throw in there?
These are real people. You know that, Mr. Jones?
I think you just told them to move on.
Just like all the Iraqis, but you liberals kill and love.
Just like all the Iraqis, you liberal people killed and loved.
Unbelievable. You switch on emotions on and off when you want. It's just ambulance chasing.
Why don't you show a little respect?
Objection, Judge. I think that you get what
You can't get into a fight with the witness. And you lose credibility when you do that. And you kind of sink down to their level when you do that. You know, the best thing you can do is just ask your questions. And if he doesn't answer them, then you object yourself.
Objection.
You have families in this courtroom here that lost children, sisters, wives, moms.
Is this a struggle session? Are we in China? I've already said I'm sorry hundreds of times, and I'm done saying I'm sorry. I didn't generate this. I wasn't the first person to say it. American gun owners didn't like being blamed for this, as the left did, so we rejected it mentally and said it must not be true. But I legitimately thought it might have been staged, and I stand by that, and I don't apologize for it.
I legitimately thought it might have been staged. There's no evidence of that. Zero. And that's reflected. His attitude right there is reflected in the ultimate verdict, you know, resulting in almost $1 billion against him that are undischargeable in bankruptcy.
Don't apologize, Mr. Jones. Please don't apologize.
No, I've already apologized to the parents over and over again.
We know
I don't apologize to you.
Objection.
Don't apologize to you.
So this lawyer is kind of getting his dander up, and he doesn't really need to.
You're going to do it again.
Objection, Judge.
Aren't you?
Objection.
No, I'm not.
Objection. Argumentative.
Don't apologize to you.
Well, it's hard for me to get a word in edgewise.
It is, but I
Because
think
your
there's
client
one officer of the court and one witness and an officer of the
why
court
don't
heard
we
the
move
objection.
on, and I can't rule on your attorney's, excuse me.
I'm sorry. Screaming at me.
The next one is Larry Nassar, and Larry Nassar was a gymnastics coach who sexually assaulted many people. Watch this. This is actually incredible.
Distraught father have a chance to say something.
And if you're a victim's relative or whatever, you have the right to do a victim impact.
You son of a...
We don't want to swear. We don't want to have profanity. I can't imagine the anger and the anxiety and the feeling of wanting retribution. And if you need to say something to help you, I'm more than willing to let you say something. But in a courtroom, we don't use profanity. But if you have some words that you would like to...
So the judge is talking about decorum there. I mean, even you can't let your emotions get the better of you, but listen to this.
I would ask you to, as part of this sentencing, to grant me 5 minutes in a locked room with this demon.
Okay, I don't think the judge will let him do that. Oh, sure, no problem. Deputies, could you arrange that? In fact, do you have any brass knuckles we could give this individual? I don't think so.
Would you do that?
That is not...
Yes or no?
No, sir.
Would you give me 1 minute?
You know that I can't.
I mean, it's your fucking daughter. I mean, you mess with somebody's family, you know, in a way like that. I mean, God, you want to just pound the shit out of the guy.
That's not how it is.
Well, I'm going to have to get...
What's happened to you guys?
So now he just got arrested for attempted assault. You know, when you have these types of events, you get the dander gets the better of you, or can.
You cannot behave like that. No one can behave like this. I'm going to make sure it's crystal clear. I'm sure Judge Hines...
You haven't lived through it, lady.
You cannot behave like this. This is letting him have...
Now, remember what I told you? I told you one time that a client of mine, I'm sitting there, a murder case, and we're waiting for the verdict. And my guy had the biggest forearms of anybody I had ever seen. And he's got a tattoo of 3 of his kids on his forearm, and they're big tattoos. Big guy, and he looks at me and he says, you know, and the prosecutor had been just a fucking prick throughout the trial. He was just an asshole. And he looked at me, and he would make snide remarks, you know. And my guy was, you know, a decent guy. He was a funny guy. He had all the guards, you know. He was a very charismatic guy. And got along with everybody. But he leans over and he says to me, as we're sitting there, we're waiting for the jury to come back. He looks at me. He says, "Look, if it's guilty, I'm jumping across this table. I'm gonna whip that prosecutor's ass." And what am I supposed to do? I mean, at that moment, I'm an officer of the court. I should tell the deputies, we might have an issue here. But I figured, you know, you saw here in this case how quickly the deputies got him. So I figured, well, he might get 1 or 2 in. But the deputy, you know, and the guy was such a prick, I figured, you know, he kind of had it coming. But lucky for that prosecutor, we got an acquittal. So this has just been a reaction to 5 of wild courtroom scenes and high-profile cases. I like these things, so if you guys like this kind of content, let us know. Send us some comments on what you want to see, and make sure you go to Bonfire and order the merch for your family, because we've got bucket hats and all kinds of other stuff. So this is Bruce Rivers, Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, subscribe, follow us on Twitter, sign up for Patreon, and we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.
Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. 23-hour lockdown, please just let my God.